Perfect.
You know.
Now, how did you feel catching up with Sam? I don't know if you've seen when NeYo, he had made some comments about the transgender community. He apologized for him, but then he kind of doubled down on his original comment, saying that I'm not going to change, how I feel. Now, I don't think NeYo's comments were necessarily, and we could get into if it was right or wrong. It was his opinion. Right. And I think he was just honestly stating his opinion. Now, I don't want to get you canceled. I don't know where you fall on the whole transgender issue, but I think people should be allowed to express how they feel, because this is kind of a relatively new thing to some people. You know what I mean? For some people, this is they just Wayne Brady, the pansexual thing. I was telling my co-host at the time, I was like, that was a new word to me. I didn't know what that meant. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna make my mistakes maybe with pronouns and things of that nature, but I shouldn't be necessarily crucified for having an opinion, whether it's status quo, politically correct or not. And I think that's what NeYo had.
I am a supporter of the LGBTQ plus. Shout out to my mom. She always taught me not to hate. She had gay friends, things like that. But like you said, I agree with you. You should be able to have an opinion as long as you're not overstepping a line of disrespect. You're not using any slurs. And if I vaguely remember, he said, "This is how I grew up. I'm kind of old school." And it takes a person who's old school to kind of come around to the idea to kind of try to understand. And I think that's kind of what he was saying.
I think he was more so even specifically saying if in my family, in my household, I'm gonna raise my kids this way. I don't think he was necessarily giving anybody no slack if they choose to do that. He was just more so saying he doesn't think a kid should have that choice. You know what I mean? The kids that he can make decisions over.
Right. Yeah, it's tough because if I had kids, I wouldn't care. If they wanted to change their gender or their sexuality. My only thing with the gender, I've learned this from a comedian, Flame Monroe. Shout out Flame Monroe. She's a comedian.
Yeah.
She's trans. And I think that the process of changing your gender should happen when you're 18.
Because your mind is more developed on the long term of what that's going to be.
Your mind is it's more developed. Yeah, and I think your mind isn't fully developed till you're 25.
Yeah,
technically, but at 18 you can vote. At 18 you can buy cigarettes. Like
join the army.
But join the army. Thank you. You should be able. I think that should be when you're able to change your gender. Because there's so many people detransitioning, and there's so many people
what think I know what it means, but just in case the audience doesn't know.
Sure. Detransitioning is when you choose to change your gender and go back to your original birth gender. Like you thought to change.
Like so if I was
a woman that wanted to be a man, I did the transitioning. Now I want to change back to a woman. Back to my what I was assigned to as birth as a woman.
But does that mean like you did the surgery already?
Depends.
Okay,
it depends. You can do the surgery and go and decide to detransition back to your original birth gender.
Okay.
However, obviously that comes with complications and surgery. That's a whole nother story, because even a lot of transgender people say don't get a SRS, which is your bottom surgery. Do not change your genitalia.
They're saying, so they're telling people who feel like they want to transition, they're telling them to do it without
changing their genitalia, because a lot of times people who change their genitalia, who get rid of it or what have you, tend to commit suicide.
Really?
It's a high percentage of suicide when you change it, when you get the bottom surgery. It's a multitude of things, hormones, people, social media, things you read, but a lot of it comes from like changing your genitalia. A lot of
I think that's the part that people have the biggest issue with, because it's everything else seems reversible. Right? You know what I mean? So I mean,
you can get breasts put in or removed, and,
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what people are like, not like, and wherever you fall on it, right? It's a two-sided thing, because your opinion of it could be one way, but your opinion of it for your children might be different. Like you wouldn't personally
care. Help what they feel. I don't have an issue with it. I've talked about it on the pod. It's more or less like the attack against women that trans women tend to do against cis women.
Speak on that a little bit more, like, because I've heard about that myself, like kind of like two sides of the coin. Cis women.
It's like you went, so I don't mind changing my language to make someone feel comfortable.
Okay.
But it's like getting to the point where you're calling me a bleeder because I have a period. You're telling me to say chest feeding instead of breastfeeding, and everything to make you comfortable, even though as cis women, we've done nothing but accept and want you in our, because you're part of our community. To me, if you're a trans woman, you're a woman to me. I don't know how anybody else feels about it. You know what I mean? Even, like that same comedian I talked about, Flame Monroe, shout out to her. She'll keep it a band. I'm a woman in a wig. I'm a man, excuse me, in a wig. I'm a woman impersonator. I learned how to be a woman from a woman. But you got trans people, trans women who are telling us that they're that they're real women and we're not, and it's giving misogyny because at one point they were men.
So now they kind of think that they're better than actual women.
It seems like they hate us. I don't understand it. I don't get it because I feel like my community women have done nothing but support trans women, and I still do.
And you're not saying all trans women. You're saying there's specific
a
ones.
few. There's some TikToks and some videos that are just like offensive to us. That sports. That's another example.
I was gonna ask where you fall on that, because I'm not gonna lie, like I am super accepting of all people, but I don't necessarily think that if you were born a male, you should be playing sports with my daughter.
No, it's true.
And I don't know if I'd feel different if I didn't have a daughter. It doesn't seem fair.
You're stronger, you're faster. At the end of the day, we can't change, biologics. Like, you know what I'm saying? We can try with surgery, but at the end of your bone density, things that you're just stronger, faster.
The swimmer, he was a dude. I think he was like getting 40th place at the rank. That he became a woman, and now he's the top ranked swimmer. Excuse me, she's the top ranked swimmer, and it's just like that doesn't seem fair to me. And that doesn't seem,
it's not fair.
Yeah. Life isn't fair. Life isn't fair.
Right.
Sports isn't guaranteed.
That's another thing to accept. Like you said, life ain't fair. It is what it is. And I'll take that. I'll take it. Do you get what I'm saying? But you're not going to keep attacking women all the fucking time. You know what I mean? You're not. That's how I feel. But you're not going to. It's like attack against us. You're not going to keep doing that. Like we had covered a story on the pod about a trans woman.
Tell them the name of the pod one more time. Tell them the name of the pod.
Minority Plus One, baby. Minority Plus One. All one word podcast. But we touched on a topic of, it was a couple months ago, and I think it was in, I want to say Mississippi, I could be wrong, about a trans woman that joined a sorority. She was in the sorority house. Do you remember that story? She was in a sorority house. And the issue with the girls, and I felt them on this, is that she would watch them as they got out the shower, and then they're in the towels, and they would see that she would get aroused and she would get erect. And it made them uncomfortable. And that I don't think anything's wrong with that, because I feel like that around men, like, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to call them transphobic, and that's not it. And I think that it's okay to have a space, because as women, as cis women, we had to fight for a space. And trans have a space, but they want to intrude on our space. And then just kick us out. You know what I mean? That's the shit. I want unity. I don't want division. And that's the issue. But
you bring up a good point, because I feel the same way with the sports, like you just said about the sorority. Like you're not promised in life because you are born that you're gonna play sports or you're gonna be in a fraternity. Like these are extras in life, and it sucks. But as a man, I can't go join a sorority, right? They could discriminate and be like, you could stay out. So you gotta let them
call you a sicko.
Exactly, right? Like, why would you want to join us? But they should still be able to give that same, without them being called transphobic, to be like, we don't want, you know what I mean? Because of what you just said. I don't want us to see somebody getting visibly erect. I don't want to see, like, that I can see why that makes it uncomfortable.
And it brought me into that part, because I'm like, okay, if this person is trans, you don't have to take hormones to be trans. But I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, and I don't want to disrespect nobody. If you're, I assume if you're trans, right, and you're on the verge to be a woman, you're a trans woman, you take these hormones, you no longer, as far as I could be wrong, you don't get aroused, things like that. You know, you don't get a hard on.
That's what the hormones. Like, that's what the hormones.
Right. You get the estrogen and all that. So it's like, were you their thing was, are you even a real trans person? You know, but I don't know. You know what I'm saying? And
not to get too weird, isn't there like a whole porno industry of trans people? So I mean,
but yeah, I guess
I think they have sex with women, if I'm not mistaken. Like they have sex with cis women. So
I
guess it depends on what you decide to. what you decide to do, right?
Right. I have these questions, but trans people tend to be sensitive. And you can't ask these questions.
To talk about it, yeah.
Without
and that's where
them getting upset. And it's like, this is new, even like Neo was saying, and he's in our generation, because I'm in my 30s. I'm maybe he's in his 40s, whatever have you. We came from a different generation, so we don't really know. I'm just guessing. I don't have any trans friends. I would like one, but I don't want them to think they're this science experiment because I'm asking these questions. I want to know because I really care. Yeah. And I want to respect what you have going on. And
you don't want to be ignorant. You don't want to say the wrong thing.
I don't want to be ignorant. Come on, y'all. I'm Black. Like, we come from a marginalized group, you know? Like,
I get that. And then to me, if you can't have a conversation, we podcasters. If anybody can't have a conversation with us without anybody getting offended, then where can we go from here? How can we grow? It's like, how can we move forward? We got to be able to talk this out. Perfect Talk is what it do, man. Thank you for checking out this Perfect Talk short clip. But go check out the full episodes right there on the YouTube channel, man. Subscribe, hit that like button, baby.